Tamas, I'm so happy that you're here on my Hero series on my YouTube channel. Welcome. How are you?
So am I. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Andrew. I'm very good, thanks. I can't complain, really. What about you?
I'm all right, thanks. So Tamas is my friend for a long time. He's gone through an amazing metamorphosis from a businessman into becoming a researcher in the UK about food and diet and a whole lot of other things, orphanages, in Africa and all other places. But we'll talk about this. Do you want to start from the beginning when we started, or even before, just for giving us a bit of a background as to how far you have started from?
Very far, Andrew, very far, extremely far. When was it we first met? Like 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago. At the time, I was running several companies in Budapest, in Hungary, and elsewhere as well. I had a company in Romania, which was a complete wreck. It went bankrupt without even selling anything in the first place. But anyway, this is my story. At least I always had something. Well, should I call it providence, something, or luck, or anyway, successful in way of businesses. So at the time we met, like 10 or 15 years ago, or somewhere in between. Yes, I had a company selling toxic materials, CD, DVDs. So we printed the top of CDs and DVDs, these mini discs, and sometimes we transparent CDs and shape CDs, as we call them in those years. But then the recession hit, and as well as my philosophy and my approach to life changed a great deal. So I had a thirst after some kind of, sustainability approaches, building, for example, in Europe. They began, especially in Germany, the so-called passive housing project. So I was really interested in CO2, greenhouse gases emissions, and sustainable livelihoods, really. And as you mentioned, food is in focus of my research. I was pretty much interested in veganism, being one of them. So I felt like, I was like selling sugar-coated drinks or whatever, and I had an urge to go somewhere and to do something different and something better. So I opted into a research course, PhD course in the UK, and no regret ever since, no regret.
How did this happen, Tamas? Because I talk to a lot of people who are stuck in jobs, stuck in careers, and there's all of those fears that are holding them back, and probably seeing safety in that old job that has been really grown out and probably boring, but most people just can't let it go.
I hear you, Andrew.
How did you do this? Tell us.
Yeah, I hear you very much. And I can't blame them, to tell you the truth, because I think to a large degree, we are conditioned into this way of thinking, we are channeled into this. So there is a lot to do with the personality, I guess. So I think some people are luckier than others, who are more open to change. For example, there is this inertia to change. It's not always easy to take the first step, but luckily, or again, providence, I'm very happy to have experienced this, that it's good to plunge yourself into the new, into the unknown, because then you can learn a great deal, and then in the end, you get not only new experiences, but your way of thinking will change as well. My journeys to Africa, for example. I mean, when I first went to Africa like 20 odd years ago, it was a bit of an excitement, really, but I somehow did it. I took that step, and no regret. Once again, no regret. So I think the way I imagine life and people, that we all have tendencies towards extremes, like if I'm on the lazy side, which I am sometimes, by the way, and I don't feel like even leaving the house, then I think I need to work on that and get out of your so-called comfort zone, find something good, sports, activities, hiking, whatever. On the other hand, if you are a hyper, which again I am sometimes at times, and you just can't sit, then you need to kind of teach yourself into this like sit down and read a book, for example. Take a book, not only online browsing, but, and I say it to children as well as adults, you know, it's so nice to hold a physical copy of a volume and to get absorbed, and then push your smartphones, whatever you have, aside, you know, leave them in the other room. Sometimes I eat together. Eating together is my current research topic, and I like doing this. Sometimes people come to share a meal with me, but they're constantly on their smartphone, you know, and it's mine has been on what do you call it, on muted, you know, for like years, literally for years, maybe 10 years. So I muted my phone, and they have these signals, you know, these beeps and whatever all the time, and they even start talking, you know. And no, the meal time for me, well, it's like a ritual, you know, a rite, you know, and enjoy one another. Look, it's not easy. It doesn't come naturally always for me either, because my mind is, you know, I work too hard and I want to halve it, so I want to go part-time as soon as possible. But you can channel your mind into this, that watch out for the other. What thoughts are they entertaining? What is the issue? What is the problem? Let's talk about them. Let's exchange ideas. So I find this is, I mean, this is community. We are social beings, so this is the core of our living, I guess. To have fellowship together, to be together, to enjoy a meal, as well as the social aspects that you know come together with a meal. So, cut the long story short, if you are adventurous, it's easy for you. Then you need to balance out, you know, counterbalance your adventures with other kinds of practices. But if you are on the reserved side of the spectrum, more like pretty much, you know, shunning everything, shying away from everything, then I would say try, get out on your own, or find someone, a friend, to talk with and to do exercise. We just mentioned, you know, you and I just had a chat about this because I live on the sea, next to the sea in Worthing in the UK, that we have these machines on the beach and everywhere in the all over the world, really, where you can, you know, do some exercise, meet people, talk to people. So I'm not saying it's easy, because also money matters to me as well, because I need to pay the bills, etc., etc. But if you focus on this, you can manage. It's manageable.
Wonderful. So, who are you serving these days? Who are the audience for your research?
Well, to be honest with you, and normally a journal paper, so if you publish a paper in a journal, is only read by a handful of people, if that, maybe one or two. So the idea behind publishing and this urge, you know, to publish good academic standards and papers, is that you just carry on, you know, you progress, and that's the way of progression, and the areas are so niche areas that you look into, that not many people will read your journal articles. Let's establish this to begin with. But there are outlets such as The Conversation, for example. I think it's a British kind of venture enterprise, like 7, 8 years old or something like this. But I think it's there in Australia and other countries as well. So in The Conversation, you publish your findings, but expressed in ways digestible to the general public. So you don't go very deep into referencing and to be so exact and scientifically provable, or you know what I mean. But you just give a storyline. So all the years of your research can be published on 1 or 2 pages. At the moment, I'm writing on Christianity and veganism. It's a very interesting thing, because normally they are perceived to be on opposing sides. Wow. But how they seem to be being brought together in these days. So it's very interesting. So I publish my findings, but not long, so easily digestible, not overkill to the reader. So that's the other side of the coin. I'm not saying that academic journals are superfluous or not needed, because that's the way of progress. You know, others really, they reply, challenge you, etc., etc. And also, I'm afraid that's how you are measured. You are measured through these key indicators. So it's important. But yeah, The Conversation, for example, or BBC or online channels can provide you with a space to continue the dialogue.
Are you using social media to actually share your findings and your message? Several platforms.
I used to have a homepage for my own profile. At the moment, I only use I work for the University of Winchester, so I only use their space provided for us. And of course, when I publish something, I share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, but I don't make a fuss about this at the moment. And it may remain like this, because I'm trying to narrow my engagement with the public, not to broaden it. It's fair enough. It could be a fair path to earn a living as well, to be a digital nomad, for example, and do your business from out of nowhere, out in nature. At the moment, I work for a university, and full time. So the rest of my time I spend with hiding. So I try to hide away. But I can understand both. I mean, both are valid approaches, I guess.
Wonderful. And what else are you doing these days? You mentioned me before. There is this
FGM, maybe.
FGM, yes. Did you want to expand on that? If you know, someone is watching this and they know someone who is affected, or where they may have relatives who are exposed to all of that. Did you want to go into that?
Yes. So, you know, Andrea, you also visited Tanzania, Africa with me. I wasn't there at the time, but we work for orphans and tribal people there, the Maasai people in Kenya and Tanzania, you know, those who jump up very high and they wear vivid colors, red and blue, nice, very nice people. And of course, I've been going there for the last 25 years or so, many times. I went there thinking that thinking that now I'm going to, you know, teach them or establish something, a school, which may have happened, you know, a few schools here and there, few establishments. It's fair enough, but in actual fact, it is us who learn. So it is us who are given. So it's an exchange of cultures, exchange of ideas, etc., etc. So, but there are issues there in East African countries, for example, and all over the world. and these issues affect Great Britain as well, like this genital cutting, you know, the female genital mutilation, and it's just touched my heart, you know, when you see, when you look into the eyes of people, you can see whether there is smile, contentment, you know, happiness. And to an extent, it's there because singing together with these tribal people, it's just so nice, eating together again, and just sharing, you know. But you can see that there are issues like once you get married at the age of 8 or 10, right? You just feel. So I'm not into either extremes. So I don't want to change the culture of you know of any ethnic groups globally, because they're all yes, they have their own rights, yes, and their own historical heritage, etc. But on the other hand, I am not saying either that cultures are all good and beautiful. So I wouldn't like to romanticize cultures, you know, that everything is just good there just because they are remote or pastoralist people living in the wild and so forth. I'm not saying that everything is good. So I think, and these so-called rescue houses for girls are being built across Kenya. I saw several of them on YouTube, and I'm into this to build these houses for girls to prevent them from well, to give them opportunities for education, prevent them from diseases such as HIV/AIDS, because you know it's prevalent. HIV/AIDS prevails throughout Africa. Like in Botswana, for example, I read in statistics that every 5th person suffers from HIV/AIDS, and it's there in East African countries as well. So this cutting, and at some points of the word, it's a whole cut, a full cut, you know, and then it's stitched back. So whenever you give birth, whenever you have the monthly period or whatever, you know, it hurts, it's infectious, it causes issues. But not only down there and some of the Arabic countries and African countries, but in Western countries as well. So I'm just wondering that with this urbanization and climate change, whether or not these local chiefs, the village chiefs in African countries, to me, I hypothesize that they tend towards to be more flexible, less rigid in their ways of cultural maintenance, and it looks to me that there would be a crack opening where our research could enter to investigate into this local leadership, regional leadership, whether these societal and environmental changes such as climate change and other kinds of like migration, the job, you know, the labor market was rearranged altogether, whether or not it would have caused some changes in leadership and their approach to their livelihoods, which would help their society to establish some new ways, because this FGM is forbidden according or per law, the national government, you know, but the regulations would not allow it anymore. But it doesn't mean much, because they still continue, and because their structure, their organization, their organizing is completely different. It's based on village chiefs, and it's beautiful, by the way, when they sit around in a big circle. Did you see it in Mas Island? I saw some of these negotiations. They sit in a circle. They're very nice. They don't shout into one another's talk and speech. So you can, again, learn a great deal of things, you know, and whoever speaks stands up, and it's interesting to see. So I want to look into, I want to establish a research center looking into, to begin with, leadership, regional leadership, and its connection to climate change, in social societal change, and girls and ladies, women, gender issues, their businesses, their development, education, and so on.
Who would you look for? I mean, if someone's watching this video now, would you need volunteers? Would you need activists? Or what would help you from my audience to join in an effort to make some shifts? What do you think would help you at this stage?
So thank you, Andrea. So at this phase, at this stage, we are looking into an initial pool of funds to build a website, and then to start research at the University of Winchester and other universities in Germany and across the world already applied or indicated their interest. So they would be joining for sure. And you mentioned NGOs, charities. The plan is to work all together, civil society, the public, and government, and NGOs, and academic organizations like universities, to come together and represent findings on the website and all kinds of information in terms of activism as well included. But also the research idea is that we don't know the outcome yet. So when we do research, we step back, or we take a helicopter view, yes, so that we don't know the outcome yet. So we don't want to force a preconceived idea and view on the readers and our audience. But of course, in a way, it's like action, what we call action research. So action research, it means that when you identify an issue, a problem, and you kind of work on a solution as well. It's pretty, in social sciences, it's rare, because normally you say, no, I try to put aside all my biases. Of course, it's not possible. So your assumptions, biases will always be there, but at least you need to acknowledge them. Well, it's part and parcel of our plan to work, to try and work against this phenomenon.
Amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share that you would be able to contribute to people, or that they should go and see you about at all?
I think, Andrea, my idea is to as we said, step out. If you're burnt out, then try and shift. Go for a change. I would also suggest eat together, socialize with people, eat together, arrange parties. Like Saturday, I visited the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the local church here in Worthing. And we are here famous for eating together. So what we call potluck. Have you heard the word potluck, Andrea? So potluck, I think the origin of the word means that you put together your food and you make your luck, whether you find something or something like this. I read about this, but we call it potluck. It means that we meet at certain families, or sometimes in the church itself. We put together the food, we cook like in huge amounts, and then we just lay beautiful tables and we celebrate. We really enjoy ourselves, and it's a social, because for some religions, I researched this into various other religions as well. To some religions, it's not a social practice to eat together. Like you can even turn your backs on one another, or segregation. Women sit
Yeah.
here. So it may happen, but and also I watched some like in America or Canada or South America, there are some Christian societies who moved hundreds of years ago from Europe, and they're very quiet, and it's interesting. So it's interesting to study this in all kinds of settings. But for us, it's social. It's you can laugh, you can speak, you can so we don't have more rules for eating. We have fewer rules, when we eat together, and it really is a way of enjoyment, and also an opportunity to find out about one another. Maybe the other one smiles, and you don't know what's going on behind, because they won't opening up. Nowadays you can't trust. You don't know who to trust, and when you come together like this in a friendly atmosphere, and you can exchange thoughts and go deeper, I would suggest you do this, and you can do it. You can invite family, and so I really am a great believer of this, in opposition to McDrive. Quickly just throw something down your throat. So to give time when you eat, chew it properly, discuss issues, philosophize, or to ponder upon life's important questions. I think it is great. Exercise, fresh air, open your windows. Some people they wouldn't, get out. And gardening, I would suggest community gardening or individual gardening. If you have a small plot, please, I would advise that your audience try this or continue, because many of us do already, to make our fingers dirty a little bit. One hurt, but it's the connection. It's connectivity with nature is also part of my research interest. So how it decays, how it changes, how we can regain this traditional practice from our grandparents, to re-establish the importance of food literacy. Children are unaware of what ketchup comes from, so they need to see a tomato. So step by step. And of course, there is this permaculture and new ways. So as decay is more and more in society, I guess simultaneously we find that there is more and more in way of solution. So we're kind of, it's like, there are issues, but human invention and creativity can provide us with some solution. For example, in the Hare Krishna community where I researched, they disconnect from technology. They disconnect, and they had a central well in Hungary. They have a complete village. Central well. It was a spring, so it was natural water, but then they distributed the water from there, and they needed some chlorine, to clean the water. So they discontinued with this scheme, and they decided that each house has their own pothole, or what do you call it, borehole, like well. And mechanic, not electric at all, but mechanically they draw the water up mechanically. So there is this steering their livelihood into new directions by disconnecting from nature, not using tractors, fuel-based, fossil fuel-based machinery, but they used oxen, and hand. So I guess it's good for the health, for mental health, for physical health, for the body, what do you call it, body fat index, or what,
BMI.
So, BMI. And I find that when you do good things, they are good not only for one particular aspect of your life, but a multiplicity of aspects. So I would say balance it out. If you sit in front of your smartphone computer, get out and do anything. Breathe in fresh air, enjoy the rains, the winds, gardens. You know, my beetroots, I'm so grateful. Huge. I should have shown you, Andre. Big ones. And on Saturday when we came together, I gave out some. So we share. So I would say, if you were to ask me one word, I would say sharing economy. When you drive, do it together. If you need to drive, when you eat, do it together. Community. And us in the West, the Northern Hemisphere, the Northern Pole or whatever, we are more segregated. So we can learn again from African and Southern cultures to be togetherness, belongingness, affiliation, to share.
Yeah, wonderful. Tamas, well, thank you very much for your time. And I hope people will reach out to you about projects in Africa or whichever way they can hopefully help you and connect with you.
That would be great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Andre. Thank you again for having me. God bless.
Bye.
Bye.